good morning to everybody whilst we're getting started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday. It's very windy here, so I'm locked in my room with the windows shut and everything. Door closed, windows shut and everything to try and keep the wind out. So we're joined this morning by the fabulous Claire Thomson, who I absolutely love. She's one of my favourite people in the world. Love my Thursday mornings. And I've known Claire for quite a few years now since she trained with us. And then she's been working locally around the Cardiff area and talking at conferences and things. And although she only trained in ELT recently, she's been teaching for a number of years in other contexts. And one of the things that I think is great about Claire is that she doesn't just take things at face value. She likes to have a critical look at things and really examine whether what we're doing is best practice. So yeah, definitely someone to follow, someone to watch. And so today she's going to be talking to us about learner choice in the online classroom. And learner choice is a topic which Claire has been interested in for a number of years, but obviously with the shift online last year, she's focused a lot more on how to make it a bigger part of the online classroom. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Claire. Good morning, Claire. Oh, no, always forget, if you're not watching us live, leave us a quick message with a hashtag catch up so that we know that you're watching and we'll say hello, whether it's tomorrow or next week or whenever. Okay, sorry. Thank you, Claire.
Right. Thank you, T. Thank you. That was very kind. Good morning, everyone. So yeah, learner choice in the online classroom this time. As T said, I've been speaking about this for quite a long time now, and my passion for it has not faded away. So when we moved online, I started to have a look at how we could implement it online and not just in the classroom. So without further ado, let's have a look at the theory behind it. And this is what we'll look at. And it's not a class on question formation, okay? But we're just going to cover the what and why and the who and the when and the how. All right, nice and simple. So the big question really is, what is learner choice? And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I love giving choice, and that's fantastic. I am not remotely criticizing the fact that people give choice, but the most effective way of doing it we'll get to and explain, and that's when it really becomes a fantastic thing for learners. Okay, and actually what I haven't mentioned in any of these slides is the relationship it helps you to build with your students as well. There's you end up with a much greater sort of trust value with your students, and that's just a really nice thing over time. So the big what is it? So my view is it's about your students. It's your students having a voice. Okay, and I personally think that that's incredibly important. Okay, you know, it's not again just about you giving them some choices. It's about them being able to be part of that choice as well at times, and being able to have this voice, which they lack. So, I mean, take a minute, have a think. What choices are made for learners by teachers, by schools, by academies, by their parents, by their future, by universities, by their jobs? What choices are made for them? And then think, well, what choices are made by them? You know, are they sort of equal? Do they have many choices in their journey to learn English, or limited ones? And I think,
I mean, perhaps, like, sorry, no, I was just going to say, if anybody's typing in the chat box, but even perhaps the choice to learn English, Like, so often it's not their choice. They're being forced into it because of the education system or their parents, or it's good for your future. So yeah, I think even before we start looking at within the classroom, that kind of
Oh,
initial.
absolutely, absolutely. And and that whole battle with intrinsic and extrinsic motivation as well. And why are they there?
Mhm,
Is it their choice? That's the bottom line. And yeah, and that can go for work as well. If your
mhm.
job demands it, or if you're going to graduate, it demands it. Maybe not your choice, you have no choice. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Had a
Um,
couple of messages like the syllabus, like you said here,
brilliant.
books pre-selected, homework.
Yeah.
The perhaps there could be some choice, and I always say that young learners have very little choice in their lives in general.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's really true. Actually, I hadn't been a long time since I did young learners. Okay. But that's actually really true. They have virtually no choice at all, do they? And I would imagine that offering them choice again in the right way is only going to help them grow, not just within the classroom environment. So really important for personal growth in so many different ways too. So yeah, so I think there's 100 more choices made for learners. As T said, just the fact that coming to class, do they want to be there or not? And learners, they do it or they don't. They do the work or they don't do the work. They turn up to class or they don't turn up to class. They choose to come or not. So limited. But this, how they're going to learn is chosen for them. And when it comes to teenagers and children, especially your young learners, varies. Yeah, even I very much doubt that parents are going to sit down and discuss which academy they go to as well. They may not even have a choice on that. They get to the academy, they don't have a choice in which teacher. And of course that can't be changed, but at least as teachers we can help to make a difference for them. So I think just really thinking about how much control is taken out of our learners' hands. So, you think that choice is nice. Okay, well, choice is nice. It's lovely. Do you want a chocolate ice cream or a vanilla ice cream? And that's really nice. But offering it in the classroom, but there has to be a reason, really, to offer anything. So the big why. Lots of whys for it. Now, we talk about our learner-centered classrooms, and we try to do that and in so many different ways. There's really nothing more learner-centered than allowing your students a say in how they actually learn, and choice does to some extent offer that. So hugely learner-centered approach. Learner agency. Yeah. So, they've learner agency just basically means that they're able to act. They can do something about this. They can act on how they learn, what they're doing, what they want to be doing. When you start to offer choice, the levels of engagement do go up. Now, as we all know, measuring engagement is a very difficult thing, but I mean, simple things like your students asking questions, I think is a fantastic sign. So if you offer choice and a student actually comes back to you and says, oh, well, why would I choose this, or why are we doing this, or what about this, they're engaged. It means that they're listening, they're not just robotically sitting there. So small signs like that help you to measure engagement. It's a tricky one to work out. Yeah. Motivation, we'll talk about that a bit more. Students taking ownership of their learning. Yeah, do you know? And I don't know who's going to be listening to this, what countries you're in. I know that many of us are in Spain. It's not something they really get to do in the education system here. Things are changing over time, but certainly not fully. They're, they go into school and not a lot they can do about it. And certainly autonomous learning is not always encouraged either. We've had many discussions on this. It's It's not really even study or learning. It's just often, not always memorizing, pass exams, and on we go. So especially with teenagers with choice, you know, they come into the classroom and go, panic stricken, because at no point has this ever been offered to them. But these are all perfectly valid, you know, reasons. And what I meant to say at the beginning and forgot is that the reason I became interested in this was when I was doing my dip, and I did it as one of my research projects, and I was fascinated by it, and I saw these results. You know, I saw all of these things. I saw how learner-centered it was. I saw the students becoming more engaged, watch their motivation rise, watch them slowly come out of their shell and, you know, become more autonomous learners. And I did it with 3 different age groups, with sort of 10, 11-year-olds, with teens, older ones, to get a broad view of it and offer different types of choice over different times, and got so much back from it that I've never stopped doing it. So before I started the research, I'd read up as much as possible, and there's quite a lot out there for some ideas, but nothing sort of pulled it all together. And that's, you know, really what I've been trying to do over the time. So lots of good reasons to do it. And my favorite one that people forget about as well is how much choice supports differentiation. Yeah. And it's only in recent years that, you know, teachers' books now go have a little section maybe for differentiation. Before that, it was like everyone's doing this and they'll maybe be able to do it or they won't, and it's up to the teacher. Choice, if it's well done, can offer your learners fantastic opportunities to suit them. Yeah, differentiate between levels, between abilities, between learning styles, everything. So, you know, there's no one correct way. Every, you know, hay muchos caminos. Every road gets you there at some point. So choice really does support that. And motivation, it does, you know, it's one of my favorite things. Just, you know, maybe you don't want to go to class, and I'm sure most of you have teens and things who go, I really don't want to be here. If they can be remotely motivated in any way to learn and to enjoy and, you know, and actually be part of their process, then I'm completely all for it. Now, slight exaggeration in the next 2 slides, but you will notice the difference. So you can go from this, and that's a face I think many of us have seen. Yeah. And, you know, slight exaggeration, but you do get much better. People want to do. If they're motivated, they want to do. If they want to do, then they're engaged with it, and then they feel they can act on it. And all of the things we mentioned have a knock-on effect on each other. You know, everyone affects the other one. And I don't think you can have one without the other. You know, you can't motivate your students unless they're engaged, and they can't take ownership of their learning unless they're allowed to, and they're engaged and they're motivated to do so. So it all links together. So yeah, who? T, would anyone like to pop a couple of ideas in the who box?
As in who?
Who's learner choice suitable for? Sorry.
Okay, yeah. But we'll see if anything pops up. I was just thinking as well when you were talking before about it working with teenagers, also that idea that they're at that age where they want to have more responsibility, but they're not allowed certain responsibilities. They want to be treated more like adults, but at the same time, you know, they don't have all that cognitive ability. And so I think, yeah, giving them choice in the classroom is a really good way to kind of value them as individuals as well.
Absolutely. And it's a safe place. It's a safe place for them to do this. Yeah, their brains are rewiring. They keep rewiring to what, 21, 22. It's not easy. So offering, or is it more now? Is it older? Or is it up to 24 or something?
Yeah,
They
it's
have a
early
hard time
20s.
of it. Yeah. So yes, offering choice in a safe environment that, like T says, they can explore their own possibilities is a great thing as well. So any ideas on who?
Not yet, but I
Yeah.
love what you say about it being a safe environment. So, I mean, you're going to tell us more about your ideas in a minute, but it's not just kind of an open free for all that we're offering the students. It's very much a controlled, or I don't want to use the word controlled or teacher dictated, but you know, at the end of the day, you still have your objectives that the students will need to reach.
Absolutely, and it is controlled. They're not necessarily realizing it's controlled because they're being offered choice, but the way it's offered is controlled. Absolutely. So basically, the who is everyone. Yeah, completely everyone. And people are, maybe worried about the young learner aspect of it, especially very young learners. There's a woman in America who does fantastic work with her kindergarten kids, 3, 4 years old. She offers them choice for where they're going to sit, what work they're going to do, everything. I need to relook the link up. And it's successful. 3, 4 year olds she's giving choice to, and she's not got a riot on her hands, They can do it.
Yeah, it becomes a kind of a part of the class routine, as it were, doesn't it? And you know, the students respond to those sorts of questions and things. We've had a couple of quick things just from the chat. A comment about choice, the fact that today children see so much on the internet, online, they've got so much choice there, and then when they go into the classroom, everything's suddenly taken away. So you know, it suddenly limits them considerably. And then, yep, a couple of people have said, some of the people that use an all. And then there's a link here about Zoltan Dornay.
Yeah.
About motivation.
Research is the motivation research done by him is always interesting. And yes, choice is included in some of his later papers. Definitely. Great. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, about the amount of choice teenagers have nowadays. And great point. I hadn't really considered that extraordinary difference that they're then faced with coming in to the classroom as well. Yeah, but I mean, I think that choice is overwhelming, isn't it? Look at these kids with all these issues now, this stress issues and this desperate fear of missing out, and part of that's due to the vast amount of choice. And again, the safe environment and how to implement it, important, definitely. So yeah, who? Absolutely everyone. I ran out of space basically, but I kind of got bored and put everyone. Adults can be more resistant. I have discovered that adults can be more resistant. A lot of adults come to class because they want to be told what they're doing. We've all encountered that, possibly. Drip feed, just drip feed, and they come around to it basically without realizing it. One-to-one is quite challenging to do, but interesting. And I think, again, part of me wanted to explore the online process of this, because especially one-to-one, especially online nowadays, is quite intense for a teacher. I think classes in general are maybe more intense, this entire focus on the one face and screen. So throwing it back at everyone again, offering choice, throwing it to them, takes away that focus and that desperate need for you to be the provider of all, which is great. Yeah, small classes, large classes, business, exam, EAP, ESP, whatever. Okay. So when? And I don't mean, sort of 9 o'clock in the morning or first thing in the class or whatever, but in general in your teaching context. And obviously it would be fantastic if we could start to implement choice and keep it as part of our repertoire from the very beginning of a new class, a new term, whatever. But as long as you don't make a huge song and dance about it, going, we're going to start doing choice, then you can introduce it at any time. just don't tell them. There's no need to tell students that you're doing these things. Just quietly do them. So the secret again is, at any time, just not all the time. Too much of a good thing for anything. It's like learners loving games. Fantastic, but you can't do games all class, every class, or anything that's good and fun has to be interspersed. Okay. So yeah, what choices can I offer? Ideas very welcome in the chat if anyone would like to put any in.
We have had a comment going back to thinking about the very young learners, about like as you've said, kind of fewer options so that you don't overwhelm them. Yeah, I mean, like you say, it could even be, do you want to sit here or do you want to sit here? That is the choice, and it's most simple.
Absolutely. And it's thinking about, like I say, what choices that you can offer. If you think about the areas where students are not able to choose normally, then that gives you an idea of what is possible. So
when you said before about the adults being more reticent, when you did this as part of your DIP project, did you get much feedback from the parents about the groups you were working with then, or not? Or was it more focused?
No, I did. I actually had a session with the parents of each class afterwards, and didn't explain what I'd been doing, because that panics people with new things like that. But just a general sort of chat to see how the children were, and what came out of that in general was that the kids were much keener to come to class, and they'd noticed, especially for homework, that they wanted help with their homework. They would come back and go, I'm going to do this for homework. And instead of being made to sit down and everyone saying, have you got English class homework? They were the first to come and offer. And the classrooms were actually full of work that they'd done, much fuller than normal. So feedback from the parents from the point of view of not explicitly explaining what I was doing, but getting underhand feedback was very positive. So yeah, interesting question.
Yeah. We've had a couple of choice of game, order of things within routines, perhaps. Choice of difficulty is an interesting one, like thinking about the differentiation and, if you could do this activity or this activity, which you're going to go for? Well, I might go for the easy one.
Absolutely. And that we're going to talk about later, because it does happen, but over time it's an interesting one to discuss. So yeah, I mean, these are just some of them. How they work, definitely their homework, one of the greatest successes. Their activities, the tasks that you're doing for each one. Projects, that's a great one. I ran a magazine project with B2 teams, and that was full of choice and was fantastic. What topics for debates, topics in general, testing. How do they want to be tested? Okay, so I mean, obviously there's limitations within your own context. Depends whether you are working towards specific exams, what you're doing. There are many things to take into consideration, but these are all possibilities. Class for the day is great. I wouldn't advise doing it on the spur of the moment. I have done that with a class of teens who were being challenging, and I just went in and said, well, what do you want to do today then? Which turned into a fantastic lesson of discussion. But don't do that, it wasn't planned. Okay, the choice has to be planned. Syllabus, that's something obviously to discuss with an academy. You can't just choose a syllabus, but students can, in some instances, be involved in that. So it depends on your context. But yeah, any area that the teacher would normally make a decision is the main thing. So how's the biggie? We know that it's a good thing. Research has shown that it does work. We know for the different areas it works in. We know who we can use it with, when we can use it, and what areas we can choose. But how is kind of the biggie, really. So the first thing, and I think probably with young learners especially, but with all things, is just, overcome the fear of doing it. If you think that choice is just giving up control of your classroom, it's not. You're not allowing students to take control. And in all honesty, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen to you whether you offer choice or not. Yeah. And I can see why it would happen in some cases, but choice isn't going to be to blame for that. So there we go. This is your mantra. Simple as that. Limited, informed, and guided. So there is a lot of planning. Okay, there's a lot of planning in starting to offer choice. Like anything, once you've got things in place, you can adapt, you can change for different levels, classes, topics, everything, once you have your framework in place. But planning is everything. You cannot just go in and say, would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? Whether they're 5 years old or 55, they're going to go, I don't know. Why are you asking me? Why am I going to choose that? You're the teacher. What's in it for me? I don't even know what that is. You've got to plan ahead. You've got to work out why you're offering choice in the first place. It's not just to be friendly or because you can't decide yourself, or you think it'd be a nice thing for students to choose. It's only a nice thing if you do it like this. Okay, so it's got to be limited. You can't offer a multitude of choices. Disaster. It's got to be informed. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each choice? Why are you offering these choices? Why is this good? What benefit is it for you? How will it help you? If you choose this, what will happen? So much information is required for the students before they can make an informed choice. So limited, and then your limited choices, full information on each choice. That is so important. You can't offer choice without it. And then you come back into play as a guide. You can't just throw choice at students, even with a lot of information, and expect them to maybe make the best choice, for them. When you're playing around at the start, let them make choices and learn from them, which is quite interesting. But then make sure that you actually get, feedback on that you turn it around and you can put it back towards the learners going, oh, right, well, that wasn't the best choice, or what did you think of the choice you made? Why? Pull it back from them. Let them learn through their own, not mistakes, but their own choices, what works for them, what doesn't. And that's massive. So you're there to guide, definitely there to guide, and just give a nudge and go, well, if you did this, that'd be great, or that might work. All of those things. So that's it. That's, if you don't remember anything else from this, just remember that your choice has to be limited, has to be informed, and it has to be guided. So correctly implementing choice in the classroom is pre-planned to quite, a strict stage, really. So things to consider. Why are you doing it? Like I said, not just, I think that'd be nice to give them a choice. There has to be a reason. Okay, are you giving them choices because they've not been motivated? Are you giving them choices because you want to see their different learning styles? Are you giving them choices because you know how much work they've got coming up? You're giving them choices to see what they'll do. So choice can be like a needs analysis as well. You can learn so much about your learners from watching what they do with choice and what they choose. Fascinating. Well, I think it is. and obviously never losing sight of your learning outcomes. So it's not choice for choice sake. Yeah, it's choice because you're trying, like we go back to the differentiation picture, all these different roads are the right way, but they're going to take you to the same place at the end of the day. And, you know, I believe that if your learning outcomes are there, if they happen, I'm not sure that, obviously not all the time, but a lot of the time it just doesn't matter how you get there. Okay, if that's what you'd like everyone to achieve, that's what your learners need to achieve, and they achieve it, yay. You know, there's so many different roads to take to show that. From your point of view, like trying anything new, maybe newish, you know, how much time is it going to take to plan? Don't go mad, start simple. Start simple, not just for learners, but for you as well, because you can sink with this. You can really, you know, get bogged down and pulled under with it, definitely. So that's a consideration for you. And this one's massive. And when we get a little bit further on, I'll explain to you why it's so important. But yeah, how much time will it take to plan? And how much time will it take to prepare your students? So look at your choices, both from your point of view. We all have enough work to do, as much as we want to give the best as we can. And just think about how much time overall in a lesson, if you're planning, it's going to take you. Okay. Oh, sorry. So what I was going to, sorry.
I was going to say, there's been some interesting chat in the chat. Before I get back to that, there's a lovely message here. If you inform your students about the range of choices and why you are offering them, they'll really start to trust you, which I think as well.
I said at the beginning, it has a huge influence on the teacher-student relationship. Over time, it really does. Yeah. And they look to you more as this person that's there to actually be a guide and help them, rather than that divide, you know, that sort of, you know, teacher, trainer, or all the words that we bandy around. But yeah, you do, they begin to trust you because they're allowed to find their own feet completely. It is one of the greatest benefits, I think, from it. So yeah, it's a good one.
And there's been some chat around testing as well. When you said, you know, you could introduce it in testing. And somebody said, you know, but perhaps we're quite limited in that we're doing preparation for a particular exam, so we have to do that. So there was some chat around kind of perhaps giving them the option of which area to practice that day. And then even if you kind of want to be a bit more controlled and say, okay, today we're going to practice reading, to give them several reading texts to choose from. So they're practicing that exam activity, but they get the choice of which text. And then there was a really interesting comment that even we tend to be quite prescriptive in the way that students should complete exam activities. You know, we think we're doing exam training, but actually maybe they can think of a better way to do it, a way that suits them more than saying, right, so read the text and underline this and then look at that and underline that there. And so I thought that was really lovely as well.
It's great and so true. And it's like, you know, students going into an exam doing part one, just go, right, God, your choice, start with 7, start with this, but work out why that works for you. Is it because you read quickly? Is it because you find part 4 just, you know, deathly? Are you going to leave it to last because you'll pick it? All of these things, let them decide. And I think that the testing one of offering different reading texts, yeah, it can be that simple. And your information there, they're all doing the same thing, but it can just be, this one is about football. You might find it interesting. This is, you know, inform their choices so that they can make a choice that will work for them. They're still doing the task that you need them to do, and the outcome will be the same. Absolutely. Brilliant idea. I like that. So what I've got next are some ideas that I've used online. Okay, so at the very end, there's a slide that will give you links to all of the things. I'm sure most of you are familiar with them anyway. Okay, so, you know, Google Docs and forms and all of that. I am not going to attempt to teach you how to use them. Not my forte. There's fantastic YouTube videos, and I've provided links to those. Okay, I'm just going to show you some ideas that you can use them for, really. So first one here. So this is just, these are subjects for class today, done on Office Forms, which you can use with any platform that you're on. Or you can send it through email. There's a multitude of different ways that you can use this. You can use it at the beginning of class. Personally, you know, I would maybe introduce it before, give you students time to think so that they have time to make an informed choice for best for them. The example here is, you know, do they want to do a writing class, or do they want to do understanding passive voice? I avoid putting grammar whenever I can because they just go, no, not doing that. So writing, oh, that might be quite interesting, or understanding is always quite a nice positive take on it. Now, the point is, you need to be careful if you're offering something like this, that they don't need to know how to do one before they can do the other. Yeah, so that's when it takes this planning. If you look at a course book and you go, oh no, we'll skip those first few pages of this unit, but we'll go on to that. Maybe everything in those first few pages is building up to the one you choose. So it's often better to have some this is when to bring in other materials, maybe, you know, when you're selecting from other places, out your course book for a couple of lessons. Obviously have both planned. At some point you're going to be teaching both, so that's great. Yeah, kill two birds with one stone. You plan 2 lessons. And you know, there's basic information given here. So writing's how to write a review, and you need to be able to do this for your exam. Okay, so that's the sort of basic reason behind it. And then a bit more specific, we're going to introduce the structure and some language. And then the other one is, you know, we use a passive voice, and you need to be able to recognize it and use it. And this is obviously an exam-focused class. If I was doing it in another way, because it would be quite interesting to write a review for a magazine, or, you know, you put a different spin on it. But understanding that they need to do these gives them a chance to decide which one they want to do. So Office Forms, great. So many options. Sorry.
So then is this, obviously you send this out before the lesson. Is the idea then that the students vote, and then whichever is the most popular is the one that's done?
Generally, yeah. And, you know, if you've got an even number of students, give 3 options. If you've got an odd number of students, give an even option. So you're always going to come up with one that's got more than one vote. Okay, especially in small classes. If you've got a class of 6 students, you give 4 options, so that you definitely get, or give, you know, 5 or whatever. Do the maths. It's not my thing. So that you definitely get one sort of winner, or, you know, 2 equals, and then you can actually turn that into, you know, a brief 5-minute discussion at the beginning, bit of democracy in the classroom, quick vote, off we go. But they feel good, you know, they've been noticed. They've what they want is being listened to. You're listening to them, and that's what matters. And then they'll go into class going, well, you know, we chose this, and if it wasn't my choice, the others did, and we kind of discussed it, and fine. So great for them. This is a platform, it's my favorite platform. I don't know how many people use it. It already has a polling thing built into it, which is great. This is homework completion dates. This is a massive success. Huge success, especially for your teenagers when they're coming up, you know, ones in bachillerato going, but I can't possibly do it. Adults with a heavy workload, young kids that get too much homework. I think in general, That happens hugely. Try to avoid it, call it practice, but sometimes it's necessary. Give them a choice, and I'll guarantee that if, for example, they choose Wednesday the 28th of April, you'll have it by the 21st. Okay, I can count on one hand the amount of times it's gone to that final date. People, everyone, teenagers, children, adults, have so much going on in their lives that you're just adding more, aren't you? You're going, well, that homework needs to be in by Wednesday. And oh, God, more. Give them a choice and say, well, this is your choice. And the information there is, you tell them, go and look at the amount of work you have, look at your agenda, look at your schedule, make a decision as to when you can do this. Decide on a slot, so you kind of fill it in, but it's your choice. And yeah, the homework gets done, handed back in. It's a joy. And that works for, down to sort of 8-9-year-olds. I've tried it with. I've not tried very youngs. But shouldn't really be getting homework anyway, should they? But it does work with them. And it helps them to look at their life in a bigger picture as well, and balance everything. It's another Google Forms, not Office Forms. Again, Google Docs, go into Google Forms. Group work. Not everyone loves working with other people. Yeah, we maybe shouldn't always make them. Unless there is a reason behind it, unless we're wanting them to speak and use particular language while they're working. Unless part of this has to be, collaborative, if there's some reason for that, then fine. But if it's just a project, if it's something that's going to be put on the wall or they have to hand in and they can do it on their own, well, if they're really happy doing that and they produce the project, don't make them work with people if they don't want to. Everyone's different, Some people like to choose who they'll work with. Some people panic at that. They want you to say, well, why don't you two work together? And as a teacher, you know that will work, so you can do that. Some people would like to work with 2 or 3 people, and others think, oh, it'd be great if I'm part of this big group. So help them with the advantages and disadvantages. On your own, you're responsible for all of this. Do you have the time? Do you have the resources? Explain what's good and what's bad and guide them. If you know your students, you might know what's best for them. So that's an area that often people wouldn't offer choice in. We're doing pair work, we're doing group work, we're maybe not. Look at your students, understand them. Poll Everywhere is great. It's a free website thing, and there's so much on offer there. You can do word clouds and competition. It's great. It's a really great website, and it's free. Obviously, you can upgrade, but all their basic stuff's free. I've put the link at the end as well. So yeah, we've had new vocabulary. So would you like to kind of do an activity and controlled practice? Test yourself. Is it a multiple choice? Do you want to do a gap fill, matching? Do you want to write a short story using it? I don't. That's freer, but the idea is there. Make some flashcards. I don't care if you show me that you've understood the vocabulary we've been working with. Doesn't matter. And if your multiple choice is a dodgy one, but it works for some people, and I know it's meant to work for weaker students, and stronger students often, I think, get lower marks because they overthink. Yeah, so they kind of overthink on choosing, and if it's an obvious answer, they go, oh, it can't be that. So they choose another one. Whereas maybe slightly weaker students do really well on multiple choice. So again, differentiation, each one of these allows them to play to their strengths. Young learners, why not let them make nice little marks? This didn't actually happen. This was me making nice marks. But just show them. Just do an example. Obviously, the choices A, B, C, D, E you've discussed before. You've shown them pictures, but this is A. Then you've just reminded them. You can go back and forward until they choose. So you can make it really simple. You're not having this long, dialogue and masses of information. And visual choices are fantastic too. Obviously Halloween, not Christmas. Instead of this, will we write a poem about witches? They're there, they're there. We're going to work on everything else afterwards. But what interests you? You know, it doesn't matter. It's Halloween. We're going to be using all this vocabulary. We're going to be writing a poem. So, you know, that learning outcome's the same, what you go through, but you choose what we're going to do. Why not? If we say we're going to write a poem about bats, everyone will go, oh, I want to do witches. Choose then. Okay. Adults, you know, this was a real one, and they all scribbled all over the place, and it's fine. But you know, you're going to do a discussion class maybe the next week. This kind of thing I normally give time for at the end of a lesson. And say next week or next class, we're going to be having a discussion, and I'd like you to choose. You know, and I put them into breakout rooms so that they can talk in small groups and then bring them back, and they can decide overall. They still make their own individual choice, but they've had, and normally actually using English, I must admit, but at the end of a lesson, they're in that zone. They decide, and it is democratic, and they're passionately invested in the subject that they choose, which if you choose it, they're often not. So you get a much better discussion.
I love that idea as well of them discussing it first, but then still making their own decision. Because, you know, then, like you said, making a more informed choice. Your initial gut reaction might be, I'm going to do this. And then you talk to people about it and they go, well, and it can really help to inform your choice further.
Absolutely. So there's only so much that has to come from you. And that works with all ages as well, you know. I better speed up, sorry. So choose the option that would benefit you most at this time. So this is like business focused, if anyone does business. You don't know what's going on in their work for the next few weeks. I mean, you've got a good idea if you've got any kind of rapport and relationship, but say, you know, these are all pre-prepared. Everyone who's doing business English has got lessons prepared for all of these. Which one is relevant to you at the moment? Which one do you want to do? Okay, so then they can decide in whatever way you decide. This is a different one from Poll Everywhere. Okay, so it's actually it's not a multiple choice, it's a survey. So they can actually, online, they can write their ideas as well and the whys. So you get even more information from your students. I'm going to whiz a little bit, T, so we can get to the end, but I'm very happy to leave the presentation with you so that if anyone's interested in the ideas. This one I love. This is Poll Everywhere, and it's an interactive map. So you can use it in 100 different ways. So which culture would you like to learn about? You just click on the country and the poll is automatically taken for you. It's brilliant. So easy, it's great. And it gives students a visual, it gives them ideas, things that they maybe wouldn't think about. And if they go on and one of their peers has clicked something else, go, oh, I wonder where that is. You know, all their skills come to the fore in choosing. It could be anything, you know, what country do you want to talk about? What language? You can limit this, you can make it smaller, bigger, but Poll Everywhere has great options on it. So it's a fun one. And meant to say with this one, don't panic. If they say, well, I want to understand more about, I don't know, some obscure place that you've never heard of, you turn it around and say, that's fantastic. That's going to be your research project. So you don't need this unbelievable wealth of information. Turn it back to them again. They've made the choice, so they can take that choice forward. So moving swiftly on to my favorite thing ever, choice boards. Okay, a blank choice board, just a complete ocean of opportunities on which you shall write your choices, and then you shall inform your students and guide them. Choice boards are fantastic. They're flexible, they're easily adapted, they can be used for every level. You can use pictures for very young learners and very complicated things for adult C2s. It really makes no difference. They are across the board. The next one I'm going to show you was one of my first ones that I did when I was doing my research for the DIP, and it was an unmitigated disaster. Okay, and I learned a lot from it, which any sort of reflective cycle is how it should be. Moving on. I think it's pretty obvious what's wrong with this. Just beyond overwhelming amount of choices. And I was so pleased with all my choices. I thought they were great, and I'd spent so long working out how I could have, you know, the same sort of outcome. It was the lexical lesson, and it was vocabulary, theatre and drama. I can't remember how long I spent working out all the different ways they could show me that they'd understood this. And it was my first time introducing a choice board and a homework choice board, and I introduced it just really at the end of the lesson. And you can tell how well that went. So one, way too many choices beyond belief. You know, there's me preaching limited, hadn't worked that time. But half of those, 4 of those, 2 to start off with, okay, when you're introducing choice. And as I said way at the beginning, make sure you allow time for your learners. We actually then devoted the entire hour and 15 minutes off the next lesson discussing this choice board. And from then on, it was fantastic. And the students looked for the choice board, the homework choice board. They wanted it. And, you know, in days of the classroom, it got pinned up on the notice board, and they had that time to go and look and choose, and I was there. And nowadays, you know, you've easily done just put up on whatever platform you're on. And as long as they tell you what they're choosing, it's great. Leads to great discussions when they come back with their work as well as to why they chose it. And this suits everyone. It suits differentiation. It suits different learning styles. This is really important. Okay, you know, it suits everything basically. If you take time to look at it, and I've talked too long as usual, there's something for everyone on that, and for stronger learners and weaker learners and creative learners, and there's something there for everyone. And that's the joy of choice. And just help them choose. Say, this might suit you, this is good because, and we'll have a visual reminder, but the outcome's the same. They've proven that they can use this vocabulary. Next one was a success. B2 Teens exam class, the environment done at the end of a unit, so not for any specific linguistic aim. And again, it supports differentiation, it supports different learning styles. It also is choice for everything they have to do for their exam, whether it's reading or writing or listening, or whatever. So they're not aware of that, but it does cover everything they need to do. And T mentioned earlier about they choose the easy one. They often do to start with. And then if you continue, then they'll challenge themselves. They don't keep choosing the easy one. They find it boring after a while. They discover they can do it and then go, oh, well, maybe that one, I'll try it. And try's great. Try's all we can ask for most of the time. So yeah, so this one was a great success. Okay. So as usual, I've run out of time. The idea was that in the chat box, you all put some ideas for this choice board. Okay, so I've chosen a B1 class of adults because at some point most people probably had one. They're in their second year, so you've got more range. Okay, topic news and media and homework assignment. So you can choose, you could decide if they've been doing Lexis or writing or whatever. But we've got a couple of minutes, T, yeah? Just.
Yep. And I mean, like I said before we started, when it was you and I chatting, even if people want to add comments after the webinar's no longer live, I normally write up the notes on Monday, so I can, you know, make a copy of any ideas that people come up with and stick them in the notes there then. Yeah. Or we've
That
got
would be great.
write a tweet about a news article you've read.
Lovely.
More than however many words.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. So, you know, they'll just, a lot of them will hear tweet, that's easy, great, and forget they have to read the news article. But yeah, that's brilliant. And that will work for many of them. They'll go, that suits me, that works for me. Brilliant idea. Yeah, any new ideas would be fantastic. You get to the stage that I'm kind of recycling old ones. Any new ones would be brilliant. You know, learners with sorry, offering choice, they discover how they learn. You know, they develop more, you know, learning strategies, they develop more learning skills, and I think that's massively important. They also they learn to select the appropriate tools and resources that they need for the choice they've made. Which is again another skill that often, you know, they don't have. It's there in front of them. Everything they need to do what they've been told they're going to do is there. If you offer a more open choice, then they have to select their resources and tools. And I think that's a really important learning process as well. They often learn to self-direct, monitor their own progress too. And they just become more proactive in their own learning. You know, offers all of these things. And, you know, getting teens to reflect on what they're learning is never easy, or adults, actually. Young learners, don't know. But they can sometimes find it easier to reflect on their learning because they made those choices, so they're invested in it. They've got ownership of what they've been learning, basically.
I mean, there are a couple of ideas that have come through, but before I look at those, there was a comment, because obviously you're thinking now about doing this in the online environment. Did you find when you offered choice in the face-to-face class, was there any aspect, somebody called it the, what was it, the tyranny of the majority?
It's quite interesting. If you're aware that you've got very strong characters, they walk among us, then I'd be wary of offering something terribly important that will be taken in a vote. Okay, if you're going to do that, do it like the 2 subject possibilities, because at the end of the day, you're going to do both of them. You're just trying to use choice to motivate it for today. That works for them. The tyranny of the majority is a possibility. Just be aware of the choices that you are offering. Again, limited, and they're planned. And as we all know, it's down to the needs of your students and playing to your students. But not really. It might happen once. And what I did find as well is that the slightly quieter, not always quieter students, not necessarily weaker, but quieter students that weren't there, they started to come forward because they knew they were supported by me and maybe by others in making a choice for themselves. So they weren't overrun by weren't dictated to. But yeah, good point.
There was a lovely thing you said earlier, they've been noticed, which I thought was a really lovely way of putting it. You know, that, like you say, every person is an individual in your class and every person's choice is valid.
And the quieter ones often is put down to, you know, being weak or whatever. And no, they don't have a voice. You know, notice them, give them a voice, allow them that. Bring them to the fore and say, you haven't chosen. Let's talk about your choices. Devote time to it if possible. I know how difficult it is, but, you know, think about it. But don't just go in and offer a choice. So, you know, at the end of the day, back to the mantra of limited, informed, and guided, and pre-planned. So, learn a choice. It's your choice.
Love it.
The point is, you know, if you go away today choosing to start to implement learner choice, it's because you've been informed about it and you've been given a choice. You know, so fingers crossed.
Yep. Excellent. Well, we have had another couple of ideas for the news board. So one was make a 1-minute video explaining the main news items for today.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, again, it's what a lot of teens nowadays are doing, of kind of TikTok and all that. Down with the kids. Then another one, read an article, present it next week to a partner, say why you read it, what you knew about it before reading it, what you learned, and how did it make you feel?
Yeah, nice one. Really nice. And some students will go, oh yeah, that's a really nice idea. Because they read it because they want to give their opinion. So students that feel that they want to express their opinions will go for that. Absolutely. Ones that enjoy speaking and maybe acting, but in front of a camera and not in front of the class, making that video, you're never quite sure what's going on in their heads until you see what they choose. And it's really interesting. Simple things like, if you ask them to do a presentation for next week, it's their choice. You can video it and email it to me so that I can watch your presentation, or you can stand up in class and give it to everybody. So then the ones that are terrified of public speaking still produce a fantastic presentation, but they're just not being made to do it in front of everyone.
Yeah. Really
Simple
important.
choices like that too.
I mean, one thing that I've loved about this session as well is that you're not kind of, it's not about completely reinventing the way you do things. As you say, you do need to start simple with the choices that you introduce, and then those questions that you asked about, how much is it time efficient for you to do it, and what's the impact on your students. So yeah, it's not kind of a completely change the way that you're teaching because what you're doing is wrong. It's just about tweaking.
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's just, pop it in when you've got time and see what happens. And I think when you get the feedback from it, when you see what happens, then you take that time. I'm not saying it's not a quick fix. You cannot go into a classroom and say, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? You can, I make it as part of my lesson planning. So every lesson I have, I think, what area could I do something with? Is it worth it? Or am I doing it for the sake of it? If I'm doing it for the sake of it, I don't do it. If I'm doing it because we've been having a motivation issue or we're a bit bored with something, then I'll work out how we can come out of that. So it's another tool in your box, basically.
Awesome. Well, that was so much fun. A couple of people have kind of commented to say, they're heading off now, but lots of ideas to think about to bring into their own classrooms. So thank you very much, Claire, for coming along with us.
Much as usual, but yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dee. That was great.
Cool. Yep. So if anybody's watching afterwards, as I said at the beginning, drop us a little hashtag catch up, and I'll write up the notes on Monday. So if you want to add any more ideas to the news and media choice board, feel free to do that, and then we can collate them all. And a great thing about this is a lot, like you said, you were kind of repeating the same activities, but a lot of these activities work with different topics anyway, like write an article about this, record a video about this. So yeah, so great. Well, everyone have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you next week on Tuesday. We've got the monthly management meetup, and then we'll be back on Thursdays with our coffee breaks. Okay, so lovely to see you. Thanks again, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
See you soon.